Good morning, boys and girls. Today we are going to look at how we are going to make a cherry blossom tree with the sunrise coming up out from behind it. Now, I'm going to start off with actually using my crayons straight in, although the only thing I'm really going to use my pencil for is to start off by making a nice big circle in the background. Now, when I use my pencil, I'm going to make sure I do it nice and light, because when I go over this with the crayon, I'm not going to really want to see the crayon mixed with the pencil. So I'm going to make sure that when I do my circle, I'm going to make sure it's nice and light. And I'm making sure that my circle is nice and big. And I'm not going to worry too much if it's perfect or not, because I am going to be able to go over it once I get my crayons going. So we're talking about sunrise. So sunrise, you're going to see a lot of yellows, you're going to see a lot of orange, you're going to see a lot of red too, actually. So if you think of sunrise, one of the first things I'm going to make sure I do is make sure that make sure I erase just a little bit, so that way my circle is not so bright. Now I'm actually going to go over that pencil line with my yellow crayon, because our sun is yellow. So now I'm actually going to leave this alone for the time being. I'll probably color it in a little bit later. I'm going to go more towards the outside. And one thing I'm actually going to look to do is move away from the yellow at the moment. And it's probably going to be a better idea if I start towards the bottom where the tree is going to be. So one of the first things I'm actually going to do is I'm going to do the ground part. So the tree is going to kind of be in the middle of the sun. That's one of the reasons I haven't done the sun yet. So I'm going to first do like a bumpy looking hill where the tree is going to be on. So I'm going to start with the top part. I'm going to kind of do like a somewhat flattish top, but then probably like some stair type shapes going all the way down and across. Now I'm going to color in this area with my black. So now once I have my ground, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the tree and the branches. Now for the tree itself, I'm actually going to start with sort of a triangle shape up top here. So it's going to kind of look a little bit like this. And this is just to get me started off. Kind of almost looks like a bump right there. But I'm going to use this to help me make what's going to be like the roots of the bottom of the tree, and I'm going to use that in just a minute. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of go from the top of here, and I'm going to curve up a little bit like I'm making the letter C. And then I'm going to curve around like that. Now I'm going to go outside of this. And I'm going to kind of meet it up a little bit and then go up and around, follow around, just like this. And now I'm going to color in this part as well. Maybe I'll make a few little roots down here, kind of like this, like little spidery type legs. Make the bottom of this a little bit thicker because otherwise the tree would kind of be almost like a little top heavy. Now I'm going to do some little lines all around that will kind of be like the branches. So kind of just like little curvy lines like that. Even some on the end. Just like that. These are going to serve as like the branches. So now what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to take red, and if I actually have pink, which I do, I'm going to also take pink. And what we're doing is we're making cherry blossoms, and the cherry blossoms quite literally are circles, and we're going to have a bunch of circles all on the branches. So they're going to start out looking like little dots, and I'm going to start with the red. And I'm going to do just a bunch of cherry blossoms all around. I'm going to start out just very light, very basic. And as I go along, I'm going to be adding more, and it's really going to make this kind of pop. It's really going to make it look like really, really cool, like a huge cherry blossom tree. Because what's happening right now is as we get into April, we're starting to see some of the trees kind of come to life here. And some of the most important ones are actually ones that we call cherry blossom trees. There's actually a whole festival in Japan for cherry blossoms. Like this is kind of like, you know, when spring begins for them. It's like the cherry blossom festival. You know, people get together, they celebrate. There actually are some fun little celebrations all over the United States because there are actually some very famous cherry blossoms in Washington, D.C. There are some actually in Brooklyn as well. Mystique has actually been to that particular festival. And it's a lot of fun. People go and they gather, they listen to traditional Japanese music, they eat traditional Japanese food for the Cherry Blossom Festival. There's like specific food and everything like that. It's a lot of fun. So we're going to try and turn this into a really big sort of cherry blossom. So once I finish with doing the blossoms, little dots on the branches themselves, now I'm going to kind of like extend it. So now I'm going to kind of go up and around almost as if, you know, they're reaching out towards each other and you can't see some of the branches. That happens sometimes with a lot of trees, especially right now outside. You can't see the branches because they're so covered in blossoms, but you know that they're there. So that's what we're trying to do with this. We're kind of making our blossoms sort of extend beyond the branches with as much color as possible in order to almost make them look like they're connecting to one another. So now I've kind of finished my cherry blossom tree. It looks very, very lovely. We can even add a couple petals actually on the ground, like petals that have fallen. So maybe just some ovals on the bottom. And now what I'm going to do before I even finish up my background is I'm going to make sure I outline where some clouds might be. So I'm going to go back to my yellow. And I'm going to outline maybe where some clouds might be, because this is a sunrise, so the clouds are coming out. And I'll color those in a little bit, but this allows me to have at least a bit of an outline for those. So now with the sun, since we're doing the sunrise, I'm going to start with yellow around the sun itself. Because we're going to do the sun inside part. We're going to do that very, very lightly with the yellow. But right now I'm kind of pressing down a little bit harder to do the outside. So now I'm going to move on to an orange, and if you have different color oranges, you can maybe use a lighter orange or a darker orange. It doesn't really matter, but I'm going to move on to orange right now. And notice I'm not really pressing down very, very hard for the orange, because I don't need to. What I am going to make sure is that I kind of blend in a little bit to the yellow that I already drew. So I'm kind of overlapping a little bit. Now I'm going to go to the red, and same thing, I'm going to want to overlap just a little bit to where that orange was. And this part, the red's going to fill up the rest of the page. Once I finish the red, I'm actually going to take my yellow again, and I'm kind of going to go over all of it. So by doing that, I'm kind of actually making a nice sort of orangey yellow color, and then blending in and really making this look like it's a really nice sunrise. And then make sure you do the same thing on the other side. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my yellow, I'm going to lightly color inside the sun. I'm saying lightly because I don't want to lose the shape of the sun. And in fact, I'll show you how we make sure that we don't lose the shape of the sun in just a moment. And make sure you don't forget those little white spots at the bottom either. So to make sure that we don't lose the shape of the sun, I'm actually going to go to my orange, and I'm going to gently go around the outside of the sun. Or at least what line I can see. And I'm going to kind of do the same thing in the clouds too. I'm just going to gently go in with the orange, maybe even a little bit of the pink too. Let me get the pink there. And there we have our lovely cherry blossom with the sunrise behind it.